I'm so tired of companies trying to make gaming into this endless money printing machine.
Have you seen the headlines across the internet? Here's one of them. Electronic Arts CEO says they're interested in putting ads in their video games. And of course,
It was only a matter of time, and we all knew it.
that's something that we're all going to feel. I don't know about you, but I really liked it whenever I fired up Amazon to watch the Fallout TV show, and then suddenly found out that my paid Amazon Prime subscription has now been downgraded to be ad supported, even though I'm still paying money and I now have to pay extra money in order to not get ads. So this encroachment of ads, I think it's something that we're all becoming very, familiar.
And you know what's the funniest part about that? Well, you're gonna upgrade your subscription to not watch ads, and a year later, guess what? Your subscription has been downgraded again, and now you have ads. This is why I don't pay for a single service like this.
You're with. And that means that this story obviously blasted across the internet, and I totally get why. You see those headlines and immediately it confirms all of the things that you already know is terrible about EA and their leadership, right? It brings back all of those memories of the old days whenever EA was consistently getting themselves activist voted to being the worst company in America.
EA is so evil and so despicable that it's kind of tiresome of even mentioning it at this point, isn't it?
Which really is quite a feat when you take a look at some of the other companies in America. So, EA's investor call was last week, and that does mean that we've got a glimpse inside the inner workings of the mega publisher. That means upcoming games, a little bit of Battlefield, talk about financial performance, and yes, advertising. But on this show, the whole reason why it's more than just me, why there is a team, is we like to look at the why, not just the what, and actually understand why EA would even talk about something like this. Because, come on, surely they knew that this would explode across the internet with the force of today's sponsor. They're going to help us be less annoyed
Wait, what?
and more secure. So, data leaks, they happen all the time. And
I mean, EA just doesn't care. Everyone knows they're evil, so why should EA even care about their reputation at this point? It doesn't matter what they do. People are gonna buy GTA 6 like their life depended on it.
you've seen the tweets like this. Culture Crave. EA CEO says they're looking to put ads in their video games. Another one from Dexerto, right? Saying EA is interested in putting in-game ads in their AAA titles. And look at this very sad Eminem-looking dude. I mean, yeah, this obviously blew up. Everybody's been clowning on it, and we all know why. Pretty rough look, right? And this has been the lasting takeaway of their recent investor call. And it's an investor call that when we actually went through all of it, it didn't have that much to say. Like, EA is definitely having a quiet year, right? Lower performance, but just less releases, right? There's not as much going on. And of course, that's all following their layoffs. That said, there is a rather cute thing. They launched Apex's new season, which contained $40 weapon cosmetics at the same time that they announced.
That's pretty cheap for EA, I feel like. Yeah, I think EA could, do a lot worse, honestly.
Live service revenue growth hadn't fully met expectations this quarter. I don't think that those things are a coincidence, and of course with Apex Legends, you know the ongoing story. They had amazing revenue peaks, but they've basically struggled to get their money back up, and that has meant the likes of getting the Buster Sword, that being very expensive,
Nice.
$40 weapon skins, and all of the usual clownery that you could expect. Now, we did learn a little bit about their release slate. It's definitely not the biggest EA release slate. What they did confirm, though, is 2 new non-sports games coming out before March 2025. There is going to be a partner.
Wait, actually, let's look at what we are seeing here. If FC, no, that is The Sims. Women are gonna kill for this. Apex Legends, Madden, oh boy, that's a money printing machine. Madden players have already been 100% adjusted as humans to expect the worst in life and be happy about it. Battlefield, well, that's nice. EA Mobile, what a time to be alive. Oh yeah, everything here looks amazing. What can I say?
There is going to be a partner title, which likely will be the EA original game, and then there is a owned
Ooh.
IP title. And we really don't have to speculate too much there. We basically know it's Dragon Age Dreadwolf. That's because Eurogamer have went on record with their sources. Here's just a excerpt from Eurogamer. One of these is Dragon Age Dreadwolf. Eurogamer understands which will be fully revealed this summer after years of teases. So that's what their sources are telling them, and I am inclined to believe that. I mean, come on, at this stage, Dreadwolf has actually got to come out at some day. So expect Dragon Age reveal this summer, and it likely coming out in the fourth quarter of this.
People like Dragon Age. I have not heard anything really negative about Dragon Age. So, I mean, is there anything really negative? People just like Dragon Age as much as I understand. It's a good game. Or is there something I'm missing? Because I have never followed Dragon Age closely at all. So if there's something hugely wrong with Dragon Age because of EA, which seems likely, right? Please leave down in the comments. I'm interested.
Year. Of course, November 14th, 2024 is actually the decade anniversary of Dragon Age Inquisition, so I'm sure if they wanted to, they could do something cute around those dates. And it is quite funny, that's just 10 years of BioWare being a black hole that sucked in potential and success and really spat out nothing. Anyway, the other two stories come from the investor report, not just the advertising story that, of course, is the reason why we're all here. There's another quote which has been widely reported from the CEO, Andrew Wilson, and in it...
Oh, look at Belly. He has the, oh, I'm kind of balding, but I want to hide it haircut, bro. Look at this. He's trying to get this bad boy. Too bad you don't have hair.
He's talking about his feelings on live services, and it does sound like the most ghoulish approach to game development possible. This is what he said, quote, "And again, as I've talked about in the prepared remarks, I've just spent a whole bunch of time with the collective Battlefield team playing what they're building, and it is going to be an other tremendous live service."
Dude, do you think he actually played a game, or did he just look at the microtransactions that are possible in the game? I have a feeling it was just the microtransactions in Cash Shop. He's like, okay, time to play a little bit of that Battlefield goodness. And he's like, ah, yes, the microtransactions look very well, but you're supposed to... hush, I don't play games. I just look at the microtransactions. A true gamer of the modern age, by the way.
Now, that quote has went around. It's been a little bit stripped of context, though, so I think it's good if we put that context back in. Because here, he's actually not answering a question about game development. He is trying to defend EA's reporting practices, right? Because of some investor asking that question. And basically, the company reports all of their live services under the same metrics, and the questioner basically wanted to know why. So Wilson's response is that everything counts for the company, and that just means that they need more of them, more live services. So as much as out of context, it is him talking about Battlefield in a way that just kind of makes you squirm a little bit. And of course, saying another successful live service is hilarious if you're a Battlefield fan. BF 2042, yeah, it has actually been on the uptick. It had done well, but come on, it was overall a total shit show. The idea of Battlefield having had any form of successful live service is, of course, preposterous in the eyes of most players. If you're like me, you will remember that, yes, with Battlefield 1, you did have to purchase DLCs, but you probably also remember that that meant there was an absolute shed load of maps in that game, so much more content than any of the future Battlefield games would have. Now, the good news is, Wilson did talk about Battlefield in a more, game-related way during his prepared comments. He basically talked about the closure of Ridgeline and the shift of Criterion and Motive's second team, and confirmed that the next Battlefield has got the biggest team ever for the franchise, which is potentially good, potentially not good. If it's just throwing bodies into the development heap, that could be quite rough. If, though, it is more about parallel development, then that actually can work quite well. So, we'll obviously have to see. Now, what was notable to me is how woolly his language was. I mean, this is what Wilson said.
Really?
Motive, armed with cutting-edge Frostbite technology and compelling storytelling, is joining DICE, Criterion, and Ripple Effect to build a Battlefield universe across connected multiplayer and single-player experiences. Because, yes, connected
Okay, that sounds like a bunch of buzzwords. Nice.
experiences, which very much means Wilson is not confirming what we're actually going to be getting, though he did still mention single player. Anyway, do remember that the last Battlefield game was made.
I'm honestly surprised they even mentioned single player at this point, because single player misses out on the golden opportunity of everyone's favorite word, microtransactions. So, I don't know about that. Now, if we're talking about a single player mode that gets gatekept by buying some kind of power boost, now that I understand. But single player in general, I'm surprised they even mentioned this word. Because, again, single player does not make that much money compared to microtransactions.
In about 12 months from the bones of essentially an extraction shooter with humongous staff turnover at DICE. So, to be honest, it would be quite hard for them to cock up with the next one as much as they did with Battlefield 2044. Now, with that said, it does kind of give us the shape of today's story, right? There's what EA says of their own volition. That's the second quote that I talked about with Andrew, right? Andrew talking about the actual game itself. And then there's what EA will say when they are asked a question by investors. And that is how we get to the advertising component of today's story. This is because earnings calls are in two parts. The first part is a presentation from the company, right? Prepared remarks where they are expanding on their obligatory sort of reporting and that kind of thing, right? They're really controlling their own message. And then the other side is questions from people who are on the earnings call, who will often be representing large investors who really don't tend to be as interested in video games. As far as a lot of them are concerned, these companies, these corporations, they're just selling widgets.
They're not interested at all. Because if you were interested in video games and you were an investor, you would not, your questions would not be like, oh, like, how do you plan to increase the revenue year over year, or blah, 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 blah. You would be asking, okay, how are you going to deliver the best experience so the most players come to your game? But no one asks that. They all typically only ask one thing: how get more money now? Or maybe, how get more money in time, short time. That is what they ask. So none of the investors care about the game. None of the game developers almost care about the game. Hey, if you're working on a Battlefield or Call of Duty franchise as a developer, you're gonna have a really hard time selling me the idea that you actually care about gaming, because that is the corporate shill version of, you know, a games developer.
What they care about is just a lot of that performance and strategy. So we went through the transcription of both to basically bring you what's going on here. And for some context, right, here are the people who were on that Q&A. You had Morgan Stanley, who were asking a question about operating margin disclosure terms. We have UBS, who are asking about live service revenue.
Oh, damn, that's actually a serious question, by the way, but it makes sense. It comes from Morgan Stanley. So they actually care about profits, not just what you report on the books. Because, again, there's so many ways to actually disclose profits and monies and whatnot. There's revenue, there's gross revenue, there's gross income, and all of these things kind of symbolize different things. There's pure revenue, there's actual profit, there's pure profit, there's minus tax sales. There are so many ways. And these people are actually asking, hey, are you gonna make enough money? This is operation margins are the most purest way of asking, hey, we want you to make more money for less money spent. There is no clearer way to ask that.
Revenue expectations. There was Roth MKM, who were asking about live service reporting breakdowns. We have Raymond James, who asked, did Apex add solo mode back because of player demand? So Raymond James, apparently true.
Wow, that's actually someone who kind of cares. Wow.
Gamers, the one investing group who actually seems to have asked a question.
Yeah, that's actually, if I had to put money, I would put a lot on the fact that a question not even close to this exists here.
To do with video games. I thought that was quite funny. R.W. Baird asked about mobile plans. Benchmark Company asked, of course, about AI plans over time. And Goldman Sachs are the people who asked about EA's plans for in-game advertising.
I mean, you see what's the difference here? Morgan Stanley, noticeably actual super business question. Goldman Sachs, same thing. Everyone else kind of like, yeah, they're just slightly missing about. This is the difference in companies.
Right? You can see, though, that those are all general questions for the purpose of fund manager type people, okay? So that context, I think you can understand how the advertising topic came up. It's not something that EA actually brought up in their prepared remarks. It is something...
Also, by the way, another thing that you can notice here is... which one was it? Live service revenue expectations? This one. This one was the one. Live service revenue expectations this year. These people are thinking about maybe investing more. Because this is a question that you ask when you want to invest more for short-term gain.
For the purpose, it is something was brought up to them, and then Wilson was essentially forced to respond. Now, the thing is, in regards to EA specifically, we've actually seen all of this before. As an example, there were adverts for the Obama campaign in Burnout Paradise. Right? I even remember seeing...
Jesus, I did not know this. Oh my lord. Wow.
Advertisements for Battlefield DLC within Battlefield maps. We have Adidas, who have been selling a Miles Morales...
Adidas has been doing this for a long time now, Deborah.
...in Spider-Man, and to be honest, it looks absolutely like trash. I don't know why they thought that would be good. So this has been happening, and it's been happening in EA games already over the last few years. As an example, Warner Media is a partner with EA, and they proceeded to do...
I mean, this is actually true, by the way. If you pay close attention, you actually can notice a lot of in-game brands. Because this has been happening for a very long time.
Already over the last few years. As an example, is a partner with EA, and they proceeded to do some testing in a live environment. And that actually led to full-screen advertising appearing in UFC, which got very prompt, very negative feedback for users, leading to EA actually walking it back and, well, apologizing for the situation, right? A funky thing. Now, to get to what Wilson actually says, well, he doesn't actually say he's expecting to put ads in games during this call. So that tweet from Dexerdo saying that EA are going to be putting adverts in AAA games, well...
It's a future. It's definitely a future that I can personally easily see coming.
Technically true if you're thinking about the UFC example, if you're thinking about where you could imagine a company like that going, but let's actually go to what Andrew Wilson actually said, right? So that we're grounded in reality first. So here's the quote. To answer your question on advertising broadly again, I think we're still early in that front, and we have looked over the course of our history to be very thoughtful about advertising in the context of our play experiences. Now, he does include saying that they do eventually expect to make money from advertising when games
Okay, advertising in the context of player experiences is... let me slim it down for you. We're trying to make advertisement so people don't notice it and instantaneously start backlashing and crying and complaining about it. That's what he's effectively saying here. Oh boy. Again, it's coming. At some point, it's coming.
Shift outside of their traditional model, which per Wilson basically means user-generated content platform types of games. Here's another quote from him. So, quote, looking at how we do very thoughtful implementations inside our game experiences. So you can see that Wilson is using very woolly language. He's not really committing to anything concrete, and he's certainly not saying that in between maps in your next Battlefield game that you'll get an advert for Hot Wings at Applebee's or something like that. And when you continue to go through what Wilson said, he actually appears to be more keen about advertising outside of their games. He says,
dude, I'm still waiting for the Waffle House Mortal Kombat collab, okay?
More importantly, as we start to build community and harness the power of community beyond the bounds of our games, how do we think about advertising as a growth driver in those types of experiences? And that then brings us to why we're even talking about this in the first place. You can see here quite
implying EA has a community that likes them.
Clearly that an investor wanted to know where to put their money, right? That's what they're trying to do. That's basically why earnings calls are there. It's why this is a heavily regulated space. So this is a chance for investors to tell EA what the investors care about. And for EA, it's a chance to convince those investors that EA does recognize their concerns and thinks about the same things, even if they don't intend to follow through. As an example, Electronic Arts never went deep into Web3 or crypto stuff, right? Basically no further than some spurious investments with partners. But the thing is,
I mean, that's what everyone who even has half a brain did. Because when something like the crypto boom and NFT boom happened, well, you're honestly, if you're a big company like this, you're an idiot if you don't invest anything. Because what happens if you miss a big thing? Well, that's bad.
Andrew Wilson was very keen to tell investors that they were going to the future of the industry in 2021. They even went as far as hiring roles with experience, and that led to headlines like this one from PC Gamer. EA calls NFT and blockchain games the future of our industry.
Good stuff indeed. The future. The NFTs weren't even the future of NFT, okay? They were the grave of NFT, obviously. Oh my lord, how? Again, they kind of must do it, so all memes aside. Like, if they didn't do it, I would honestly be a little bit worried, because that just means they're idiots who are gonna probably fail spectacularly at some point and just go under. Which is not necessarily a bad thing, to be honest.
Has that been reflected in anything EA has done since? And that's because, ultimately, there's a bit of a trick going on in earnings calls. And this is a real useful skill to kind of have to cut through the corporate bollocks. Everything said in an earnings call kind of has to be objectively true, right? And that's because it's a listed company. And if a publicly listed
Yes, they can't lie. You can't lie to your investors. Yes, and
company lies to investors, well, in this case, they would get in a lot of trouble with the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC. So they're being objectively true, but it turns out you can be objectively true, but that doesn't mean what you're saying is real. And I know that sounds really strange, but what it means,
I guess it does sound strange to other people. Yeah, it doesn't sound strange to me at all.
is if there's one person inside EA who is working on whether or not advertising in-game is a fundamentally profitable model, then EA's investors can be told that it's something they're looking into. EA gets to happily tell them about that on an earnings call.
Yeah.
That's it. EA maybe pays for a few salaries to
When was this a thing when people figured out that this was reality? I forgot. I forgot when did this happen, but it was kind of hilarious because there was one point years ago when people figured out, oh, wait a minute, they can just do that? Yeah. Yeah, this has been going on for 100 years at this point. If you have one guy working on X, you can say that we are looking into it, that we are working in it, and it's not a lie. If you have conducted an investigation into this subject by 3 hobos and a fentanyl addict two decades ago, and they didn't actually do anything, you can still easily, without lying or getting in trouble, proclaim that studies in the past have indicated that this is not a great move. And there you go. Again, oh man, there was one moment when people figured out that this is happening and this is how the questions are answered, and everyone got up in arms. It was kind of funny.
explore some ideas, right? Maybe that will eventually make the line go up somewhere down the line, maybe for Apex or FIFA or the user-generated content side of Sims 5. But right now what this is a very clear example of some investor pressure as a force that companies have got to manage, right? Because there's the times they speak to you and me as their customers. Maybe they might speak to the likes of me or other people as members of the press, of media, but then they speak to investors as investors. And the earnings call is just one of those things where they play it out strategically, they try to tick the boxes, even though you can tick a box in a way that leaves it.
You're boring me, Billiard now. I guess that's it in that case. Anyway, that was Billiard News. 10 out of 10. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.